Morning, everyone. It's Joe Waxman. I'm back with another mini reading. This morning, I want to go over the chart of Jimmy Page. I just did the other Jimmy, famous guitarist, Jimi Hendrix. And so it occurred to me to do Jimmy Page. And interesting that these guitarists always get compared to, at least when I was a kid, they do, probably because they're two of the greatest guitarists of all time, and both named Jimmy, and both came out around the same era, same time period. When I was a kid, we used to listen to that kind of music a lot, which is interesting. It was before our time mostly. But it was still very popular, and we used to say, this was in high school around 9th grade, who do you like who's better, Jimmy Page or Jimi Hendrix? And the common answer that most people came to was that Jimi Hendrix was a better guitar player, but we actually like, or not that we like, but Jimmy Page wrote better material, right? That's what commonly was said when we were kids. And there are probably several reasons for that. We can look into it. Just off the top of my head that I could think about is that there's a certain almost painful quality listening to Jimi Hendrix, where and we know in his chart, he brings in a lot of that 8th house, 12th house stuff. And that's a lot of pain. That's a lot of depth. Pluto also is extremely strong in his music, in his chart. So it's bringing in this very deeply painful quality, and that's where he gets like such soul and power from. Whereas Jimmy Page, which we'll see, is far more melodic and like fantasy oriented and like above the like whereas Jimi Hendrix is deep, Jimmy Page is like flowering, like above the sky and the clouds, like very high. You'll see, but something like that. All right, I'm going to share my screen. All right, Jimmy Page. So January 9th, 1944, 4 a.m. Heston, Middlesex, England, UK. So when I saw this time said 4 a.m., I thought, well, it's probably rounded out number. It's probably not exactly 4 a.m. So this chart might be a little bit off, but we'll just go with it because that's all we got. All right. First off, I just want to note, take notice of this shape, this incredibly, beautiful Star of David that we see here. It's two inverted triangles and this powerful kite right here. I mean, that's pretty impressive. It's a secondary kite here. Whenever you see like this many blue lines, just know, like, at least this is the way Astrodien's, however you pronounce it, does it. That's harmonious. There's a lot of harmony here, and that he's going to have a very talented, overall successful life just because of the harmony, right? Sun conjunct Mercury in Capricorn. Now, I believe this is what they would call Cazimi, because it's at the same degree. I can't remember how many minutes. I'm always rough on details because Jupiter is basically conjuncting my Mercury, not super tight, but it's there. And it expands my detailed mind, my Mercury. So I like to see the big picture. I'm very philosophical, very Sagittarian, even though I'm Mercury ruled Sun and Moon, Gemini, Virgo. The Jupiter influence makes me very Sagittarian, big-minded, philosophical, and I'm light on details. And I always have to research the details because I can easily forget. So I forget how many minutes. But the Cazimi Mercury, or Cazimi any planet, is supposed to have very beneficial effects, very positive effects. Whether it's exactly Cazimi or not, I'd have to look, but it's very close. I mean, it's 34 minutes apart. But normally a combust Mercury would create certain irritation, a roughness in speech, harshness in the way they communicate, very active mind, but a tendency to burn out. And the Cazimi would enhance it a lot more. Cazimi means like in the heart of the sun, basically. Anyway, so that's something that is possible here, that Mercury is Cazimi, at least to some extent. And Mercury is ruling the 8th house, which is that's a Scorpio's original house. It's a house of death and rebirth, of secrets, occult, mystery. But it's also Mercury. So Mercury rules the skills of the hands, right? He was a guitarist. We need good hand skills. So Mercury is a very beneficial planet to him, and it rules the 10th and 11th house cusp. So he's bringing in that to his sun, which is increasing his visibility, his career, his fame, recognition, all that in the Capricorn. And it's in the 2nd house, but it's very close to the 3rd house cusp, so it's having a strong influence on the 3rd house as well. 3rd house rules artistic skills of the hands, especially creativity, like creative, like writing, communicating, speaking. Skilled musicians need active 3rd house Gemini type things, Mercury, just because they're without skills, you just have creativity and it just becomes a mess. Like without creativity on its own, it's great, but if you can't utilize it with skills or hone it down with critical, Virgo analysis and editing, then it's kind of useless, right? So, the Capricorn helps with that, the Mercury helps with that, and the 3rd house helps with that. And just while we're here, we'll go over the North Node later, but South Node, 3rd house, right? Again, all those things in Aquarius. So like very skill-oriented, communication-oriented, like writing. He wrote his own songs. He wrote his own music. He was incredibly skilled guitarist with his hands. Okay. Capricorn is driven, ruled by Saturn, right? So very hardworking, very, whatever he puts his mind to, he's going to really try and achieve success. That's Capricorn. It's, just work, achieve. Capricorn does not feel good about itself unless it's achieving. And that showed in his life. I mean, he started playing guitar at age 12, and then pretty soon he was a session guitarist in England, and one of the most sought after. And session guitarists have to be excellent. They have to be like really, really well skilled. So he was playing on all sorts of recordings and whatnot in the background. And then he became, then he was a guitarist in the band Yardbirds, and then later he founded Led Zeppelin with Robert Plant, John Bonham, and John Paul Jones. Interestingly enough, he was also inducted into the Hall of Fame twice, once for Yardbirds, once for Led Zeppelin, and considered, one of the greatest guitar players of all times by numerous, counts, like 2nd, 3rd, 4th place, and all of them, right? Jimi Hendrix usually being number 1. I think like Eric Clapton's number 2 in one of them. So yeah, Moon in Cancer, very strong position for the Moon. Jimi Hendrix also had Moon in Cancer, and Kurt Cobain also had Moon in Cancer. So, very creative, powerful Moon, like very emotional, but deep and caring and just strong Moon, really helps with the creativity. If it's like a Capricorn Moon, you can still be creative. I'm not saying you can't be creative with a Capricorn Moon, but it's going to limit it because it limits your depth of feeling, right? It's much harder. They're going to have to work harder to find their creativity. Whereas a Cancer Moon, it's right there. They're drawing from their emotions. They can pour that into their music. It just becomes powerful, right? Much easier. And here it's in the 8th house. 8th house brings a lot of, that's going to squeeze out this Cancer. It's going to be a very emotional Cancer moon because there's a lot of pain in the 8th house. Now, if it was in Gemini and it was in the 8th house cusp, it would be even more intense. But this Cancer, so it's the 9th sign. So there's already a break in right here in the full efficacy of the 8th house because it's not in the same house as the cusp, right? The Saturn is full 8th house. But still, and that's probably good. We don't want Jimmy Page like having too many tragedies where he's just like, you know, his mom's dying. Well, Cancer moon will protect that. But, you know, it keeps him good and positive, but there's going to be enough pain in his life that's going to make him like, you know, depth, give him a lot of depth. And he, you know, he was one of the, you know, way shower, like pathfinders of, you know, the whole heavy metal guitar hair band scene that became metal. I mean, you'd say like Black Sabbath was the original, but they, you know, they definitely paved Led Zeppelin, really carried that theme forward, and a lot of it is due to Jimmy Page's really heavy guitar riffs, which he was known for, right? I mean, he didn't invent the heavy guitar style. That was, I think, that came out of the '60s, basically. Jimi Hendrix might have been, you know, before him with all that. With his depth and power, but Jimmy Page was definitely one of the fathers of that style. And the 8th house moon is going to help that. It's going to squeeze out those emotions and bring a lot of the power and depth to it. All right. So his ascendant is Scorpio. I mean, I have a Scorpio ascendant. Scorpio ascendants are, I mean, not to be biased, but Scorpio ascendant is like one of the most powerful, if not, it's probably the most, if you want to just say like powerful, probably the most powerful, right? Because Scorpio represents power, right? And it's also like maybe the sexiest because Scorpio is holds, you know, the sex appeal. It's a sexy sign. You know, there's more world leaders with I can't remember if it was like Scorpio Ascendant or I think it's just Scorpio in general with Scorpio placements than any other because Scorpio wields power. It just is natural for it to wield power and to love power because, well, not so much to love power. I think anyone would love power, but just because they have a natural tendency to wield power. You know, they can, it's like the controlling of other people's resources, shared resources, other people's money. You know, we're working with others and we're wielding that power over them. It becomes very powerful, right? And he had that massive sex appeal on stage, right? Not only that, with Scorpio Ascendant, Leo is always in the, well, here Virgos takes the MC, but just barely. But this is still such a prominent position, and it's the 10th sign. So regardless of where the MC is, it's the 10th sign. Leo at the 10th sign, that's just like fame, you know, and visibility. Scorpio ascendants are the most visible out of all the ascendants because of this, right? This is the flag on high, like the Leo flag on high, where everyone can see it, right? And it can easily bring fame. Mars is the ruler of Scorpio. Mars is here in Gemini. Gemini, skills of the hands, you know, for that guitar. And Geminis are the most skilled with their hands. I just know that from experience. Like even before I was like really into like astrology or Western astrology, especially. I was really good at drawing, right? And then my other Gemini friend, also like amazing guitar player, and also incredible at drawing. And, you know, that's generally the way it goes with Geminis or, you know, third house, things like that. You know, Gemini, Mercury, third house type people that just have incredible hand skills because Gemini rules the hands. And so Mars is in Gemini, and Mars is action. Mars is technical skills, mechanical skills, things like that. And it's conjunct Uranus in Gemini. and Vesta in Gemini. But Uranus in Gemini is like brilliant, right? Because Uranus is the planet of genius. It's the planet of thinking outside the box. It's wide open thinking, and it's progressive thinking. And Uranus does not follow the rules. In fact, it doesn't like it. It's like an allergic response. It's like, you know, two magnets that where the poles are not, where the poles are aligned so that they're repelling each other. Uranus will not follow. It will not follow. I have Uranus conjunct my ascendant in Scorpio at 3 degrees, 333 to be exact. I cannot follow. I just cannot. And I will do things my own way. And I just don't care who disagrees with me. I'm just like, I'm going to do it my way. And your opinion is not welcome. That's all there is to it. And I'm not going to belong to any groups. I'm repelled by group dynamics, group think, you know, where everyone's like a number in a group. No, that's not for me. And that's not for Jimmy Page, as far as, well, it's not only his ascendant lord and sixth house lord. That's always the way it is with Scorpio ascendant. It's his Mars. It's his technical skills in Gemini. This is so skilled, and it's in the 7th house, and it's so out of the box. And Jimmy Page was always writing unique stuff, you know, putting the bow to the guitar, playing like, you know, weird tunings and like double neck guitars. Like, he just had to be completely out of the box, completely unique, completely brilliant. Uranus does wonderful things in Gemini because it's just so free to be a, you know, its crazy self. It's like almost like Uranus conjunct Mercury, which is brilliant, you know, super active mind. It's a very tight conjunction here. And Vesta's here. You know, Gemini, if it has one weakness, which I'm sure it has more than one, it's Gemini, probably has multiple weaknesses, but one of its weaknesses is that there's a tendency to be flighty and to not stick it out and to not commit. I know that. I'm very non-committal. I'm a Gemini sun and Venus. But Vesta is. And Vesta makes him very committed because it's exactly conjunct his Mars. Like, this guy is devoted to his music, to his guitar playing. And, you know, one of the greatest guitar players of all time. This is a great position to be in Gemini, to keep Gemini focused and devoted. These are the Vestal virgins who would light the fire. See, this is a symbol of fire. And they would do it like with religious zeal. It was part of their religion to just light the fire. In Roman times, I think it was Roman times, or maybe Greek times, they just had these Vestal virgins, and their job was they were virgins, and they were like religious, and they lit the fire. They kept the fire lit. I forget what kind of fire. It was like on the tower or something. I don't know. Anyway, their job was, there's that Jupiter Mercury thing making me only big picture oriented. I forget details. They were devoted. That was their religious devotion. Okay. And Saturn is here, not too close, but Saturn's effects are felt. Like, we don't feel the positive effects so easily. We feel the negative effects, and Saturn's effects can be felt, you know, pretty wide orb. I mean, I know because I have Saturn at 0 degrees Leo, and my Mars, which is my ascendant lord, because I'm a Scorpio ascendant, 11 degrees. And it definitely influences my ascendant lord. It holds me back, causes me to doubt myself, restricts me, makes me work harder. And that's what Saturn's doing here, but it's even wider orb, so much less, which is good because Uranus and Mars is just will be like, you can't, because Mars is action and Uranus wants freedom. So this is like free at, like, do not stop me. Like, you cannot stop me. Like, I do not, like, I'm deaf to whatever you say. I'm going to do whatever I want, and that's it. Like, just, your words mean nothing. You don't exist. I do what I want, and that's all there is to it. That's Mars and Uranus. It's just not going to listen, and it's not going to care what you have to say. It's going to do exactly what it wants. Now, there's some inhibition here, some tendency. There's like a voice in the back of his head saying, you know, like, well, don't go too far. And that's good because, you know, the voice of limitation, Saturn, you know, and it's going to make him work harder too. It's still in Gemini, even though it's far, it's going to make him work harder. And it's going to make it just a slight voice of doubt and restriction that's going to hold him back from being the most extreme. But he's still quite extreme, right? And this is in the 7th house. It's in the 8th house cusp, sign of the 8th house cusp, but it's still in the 7th house. The 7th house is where we reach the masses, right? And this is good because he's out here being recognized by the masses of people, right? And being able to influence them with his Mars and Uranus. And like he was a sex symbol. Like he was just like on stage, just, you know, rocking it. Like he was just so powerful. And not only that, it's opposite Venus. Mars opposite Venus is very sexual because Mars is the male masculine principle, and Venus is the female principle. Both are like the male and female sexuality, right? And they're opposite each other. That means he attracted women like nobody, right? But because of the opposite nature, he wasn't very good with women. He was, you know, he didn't need to be. He was a rock star. I mean, this is a rock star combination right here. Rock star, where he just like drawing in women by the dozens, and like he's just this macho masculine man, and he's totally detached because Uranus is totally detached, and he doesn't care, and he's probably a jerk to women, probably just treated them like crap, and he didn't care because there was just so many more that he could deal with. And like if this was a regular guy, this would be like a problem because he's cocky and arrogant and like doesn't know how to treat women. But he got away with it. He didn't care. He got away with it, and it worked for him basically. You know, 7th house Lord, Venus. So he's attracting partners to, like, women to him. This is still the 1st house. He's attracting so many women to him, right? And where's Libra? It's the 12th house. So, I mean, 12th house creativity. This is just adding to his creativity, but it could indicate loss. You know, loss or foreign women. Foreign women liked him, but relationship loss as well. Probably didn't matter to him very much, but I don't think he was very good to women, especially when he's young. So one of the most unique things. Okay, let's talk about Jupiter. So Saturn here is in Gemini. So Saturn's going to make him work hard. Like I said, it's still in the same sign. So it's going to make him work really hard with his, you know, skills, finger skills, hand skills. He's not going to get any inheritance from anyone. You know, so he grew up poor and made all his own money. He's not going to get any shared resources from marriage or anything like that. And Saturn in the 8th is just difficult and like restricts intimacy. So again, like just like, especially when he's young, it's just sex. Like he would have sex with tons of women and not be intimate with them, because sex and intimacy are different. And you know, later this would make him even better guitar player overall. But it just had I think it just had a really made him work really hard and had a restrictive influence on 8th house matters. Again, not the act of sex, but the real intimacy of sex. And this gives a long life. It's supposed to. Saturn in the 8th house, because it extends the dying process, death and rebirth. Yeah. Jupiter here is definitely, you know, bringing him some fame, a lot of fame, because Jupiter's ruling the 4th house and the 5th house cusp and the 2nd house cusp. So 2nd house would be values, would be money, but just values and worth. And he was very, very sought after, very valued. Leo in this position is the 10th sign, even though the MC is on the in Virgo, still very prominent, powerful, and fame-giving. Jupiter in Leo would definitely bring a lot of fame. Jupiter's so expansive, and it just made him like a god, like a guru, a teacher, like a guitar legend, guitar god. Jupiter right here. 4th house is bringing in his roots, right? He's bringing in his authentic British rock and roll roots to the world stage, to prominence, to full visibility, and fifth house creativity, right? So it's a very powerful position for recognition. Also, Pluto up here as well, super powerful. Any bad, he has so few bad aspects. I mean, Moon to Neptune. This make him very imaginative but delusional. But he didn't really need to be very. He could live in fantasy because he was a rock star. He was living a dream anyway. So this probably wasn't very. Might have messed up his personal life. Added to his drinking and drugs and alcohol. Definitely with Moon square Neptune. Dishonesty or delusion, potential confusion, but it definitely added to his creativity as well. And Saturn square Chiron, that's a painful aspect. It was bringing in some pains in his personal life. I don't know what, because I'm not really a detailed, I don't know much about his personal life, but definitely some issues. I have Saturn square Chiron very tight to the degree. It is very painful. Chirons are pain, our deepest wounds, and it can also become a source of healing and healer and shaman type. But when you're young, it's very, very painful. But one of the most impressive things, like, you probably still don't know why Jimmy Page is like considered the one of the top guitarists of all time, and I realized I saw it here. Very, very cool. Mars, his ascendant ruler, is stationary direct, and not only that, Neptune is stationary retrograde. So let's look at it. Boom. Neptune, Mars, 4 degrees, 4 degrees. Mars is his technical skills in Gemini, in the 7th house, conjunct Uranus and Vesta. This is legendary. This is a legendary position. I mean, talk about, as far as like being one of the greatest guitar skills, players anywhere. A stationary Mars, it's ruling as ascendant. It's ruling the 6th house, and that's considered not very good, but actually 6th house is the house of daily mundane life. So this made him practice a heck of a lot, right? Because this is what you do every single day. So this Mars in Gemini, his guitar playing, his mechanical skills, technical skills, it's like, bam. Why again, a stationary direct is so powerful? It's because the planet's not moving in relation to us. It's staying in the same point. So if you can focus your mind or your energy on one thing and just go deep, deep, deep into that, you can become a master. And so a stationary planet is a planet that's going to master whatever it represents. And here it represents guitar playing. Not only that, Neptune is the planet of creativity and imagination and fantasy and illusion and delusion. Like it's incredible for artists. It's incredible for spiritual people. It's incredible for people, even scientists who need to imagine really big things like Tesla and Einstein. But here it's completely, and remember, it's stationary, and trine is the most harmonious aspect you can get, and it's tightly trine. This made him so creative, a guitar player, with so much skill and so much creativity. Like, he's just legendary. And this is legendary. It's in the 11th house, also a very prominent house for being seen, right? Neptune is the co-ruler of Pisces, so he's bringing in his roots and creativity here up to the 11th house of groups, networks. And so this is like, Kurt Cobain had the Jupiter moon in Cancer here, and we can testament to that what the effect of large group influence here. And what it means is that his home town, like his home, people of his homeland, where he was bringing them up to this very high level of this group. So like he had groupies, he had this cult following from, especially from his roots, like people from England or from his home area. He was just like a legend to them. You know, this dream, like Neptune idealizes things. So Jimmy Page was like this idealized legend, right? And he represented them big time. And these trines are just fantastic. You know, Palestine is probably the weakest point here, but Venus is the creativity. It's right in his first house. Pluto, Venus to Pluto, really, especially in a trine. I have Pluto trine Venus, but this is actually tighter than mine. That just gives him depth to the creativity. This Pallas, I mean, probably because it plays an effect because it's so tightly aspected. But Pallas will just bring an intellectual skill. It's an asteroid, so it's not as effective, but you know, pattern recognition, certain kind of wisdom or strategy. And then this one, South Node to Mars to Neptune. I mean, that's incredible. With the, you know, kite up here, this fame-giving kite with Pluto and Neptune. Pluto brings a lot of depth and power, right? And then North Node conjunct Pluto, which is interesting. I mean, he had success early on from a young age, but then as he got older, he actually had less success, which is really interesting. And that's something to do with this North Node conjunct Pluto, because as powerful as Pluto is not really interested in fame. Pluto is interested in depth. And, you know, he had this tremendous superficial, like godly fame. Like he was a god. He was a rock and roll god for a while. Led Zeppelin has the #1 rock and roll song of all time, Stairway to Heaven. He wasn't by himself. I mean, it's not like, you know, when we compare Jimmy Page and Jimi Hendrix, Jimi Hendrix was all, he was the star. It was all him. Like his band was like nobody. I mean, there was, I think like all I remember is like the drummer was like some crazy white guy fro who's like probably did way too much cocaine, but I have no idea who he was. But like all of Led Zeppelin is famous. Like Robert Plant, John Bonham, John Paul Jones, they're each unique. They each stand out, and they were all like powerful as can be. And that's why Led Zeppelin has the #1 spot in rock and roll songs, whereas we can say Jimi Hendrix was overall a better guitar player, more powerful. But you know, again, people probably enjoy overall listening to Led Zeppelin over Jimi Hendrix because of this. Anyway, and that's subjective, of course, but just in popularity wise, I think that holds true. But what's interesting is that the North Node becomes active at 42, and so as he got older, Led Zeppelin, I don't know what year or how old he was when Led Zeppelin broke up, but the North Node conjunct Pluto will make his life much deeper, right? Because it's making it more scorpionic. Even though it's still very 10th sign rather, 9th house. So he was still, you know, had the limelight to some degree. And he was popular, and he remained, like, he was in a documentary, It Might Get Loud or something like that. And he played in various bands, but he never reached success. He always just lived off Led Zeppelin success. Whereas other bands, they kept going, like the Stones or the Grateful Dead. So it's not necessary that a rock star has to fade away and die out or whatever. But Jimmy Page, not that he faded away, but his success never reached that. The pinnacle of his success was probably, you know, somewhere with the middle of Led Zeppelin, like Houses of the Holy, or even Led Zeppelin 4, somewhere around there. Then it went down from there because Pluto is not really concerned with success and notoriety. It's concerned with depth and evolution of the soul. So he became a more spiritual being as he got older, no doubt, and more powerful as a human being. But the fame and the success dwindled over time, and it's not such a bad thing. We don't need that you know, Led Zeppelin rock star type success forever, because it's dangerous too. Like, you know, John Bonham died. It killed John Bonham. It killed a lot of people. It's just too much for most people. So I think that's, you know, it's his saving grace, allowed him to grow old in a more calm, you know, deep spiritual, you know, having to evolve sort of way, which is better for him anyway. That's what he signed up for with the Scorpio Ascendant. He needed that, and he definitely wouldn't have gotten it very much, being you know, having that level of exposure with Led Zeppelin for all his life. So good for Jimmy Page, rock legend, rock god, amazing chart. Those two stationary planets really explain why he was one of the greatest guitar players of all time. You know, long live Led Zeppelin. Probably, you know, one of the best, if not the best, one of the best. It's all debatable, I guess. I don't even listen to him anymore, but I was like in love with Led Zeppelin when I was a kid. In love. So anyway, that's Jimmy Page. All right, guys, that's it for now. I will be back tomorrow with another mini reading. And don't forget to check out my website, macroastrology.com. to book a reading. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you enjoy this content. All right, thanks. Bye.